Okay, hey, welcome to another episode of On the Wrist from Off the Cuff. Today we have another great update for you from the brand Crafter Blue. They were founded out of Hong Kong back in 2015, and they're most known for their professional grade aftermarket rubber dive straps. They have since started offering full-on wristwatches, and I have been fortunate enough to review and share quite a few of them with you guys via the channel. In terms of the type of watch, this is a chronograph. Some key characteristics in design when you're looking for a chrono. You're going to want to see, of course, external pushers to activate those timing functions, as well as multiple subdials to measure elapsed time, often featuring additional scales dependent on the subgenre. The cool thing here is it does have a pretty interesting subgenre. This is called the Voyage, and it's really meant to be an all-around travel timepiece. It has a really nice size, a really classic layout, so it's something that I think works kind of on that adventure and outdoor side, while also being able to, of course, travel with, because it does have that unique 12-hour bezel insert, so you can keep track of multiple time zones. Plus, since this is a Meca Quartz movement, you do have that 24-hour subdial that is synchronized to the main hands, which means that it does add additional functionality while traveling abroad for you to kind of remember what your home location is, whether it's an AM or PM. So I think that's really nice. And another great feature is that this is under $300. Yes, only $299 direct from Crafter Blue, which is pretty awesome. So that's another great feature. Apart from the fact that this is good looking and well spec'd, it is also really well priced. So with all that said, let's go ahead, zoom the camera out, get this piece in hand, and take a closer look. All right, guys, so as you can see, there is an extra strap here because it actually comes with an extra strap, which is cool. And I did review these straps from Crafter Blue. This is the 20mm diameter, because this does have 20mm lugs, and it also comes in this really cool carrying case, which I did want to share with you guys, because a lot of times you guys can pay extra for these cases. But I thought that that was a really nice touch that it comes in the case. And then you can see, very nice. Oh, quick wristwatch check. Normally don't do this, but in kind of the spirit of Crafter Blue, of course, and chronographs, you can see I do have the mechanical chronograph here, and this thing's like $1,000, and I think it's still a great value. But it is a mechanical chronograph, and it also is a true tool watch and a true diver as well, with 200 meters of water resistance. Now this does also have, let me give it a quick wipe for you, also does have water resistance through a screw down crown, but it's only 100 meters of water resistance, which is more than enough for this type of watch, especially because it's not really meant to be a diver. It's meant to be, again, a traveler. So very, very cool. But I did want to kind of have that also so you can see an idea of height, right? Well, we're going to talk about this watch. We're going to say, hey, this thing is nicely sized. It's nice. It's not too thick. It's only 13.6 millimeters. Well, on the other side, look at that compared to here. So again, it's a much different proposition in terms of wearability. So I did want to, make that apparent to you guys. So there is scale that's involved and proportions that are involved here as well. But let's go ahead, get this right off, and you can see that, of course, the pillow came apart with little button snaps, which is very cool. So I can just go ahead and snap this back in here if I'd like to. Boom, boom. And then speaking of travel companion, hey, travel ready. Let's take a look at this, guys. Now, when it comes to the size of this piece, it's a 42mm diameter, which is not by any means a large size when it comes to chronographs. I mean, the famous Moon watch, right, is a 42mm watch, and no one really complains about it being oversized. It's only 13.6 millimeters thick, but it does have a 51mm lug to lug, so it is a little bit longer on the lug side, but I will say that it still wears quite nicely, even though it does have that longer kind of footprint there. So this is made out of brushed and polished 316L stainless steel. You do have a nice sapphire that's double domed, so you can see that there's very little distortion just around the edges really when you get to harsh angles. So it does help tremendously when it comes to clarity. And one thing that you get, of course, with a Meca Quartz is mechanical gear train on this on the pushers and everything. So these aren't buttons that activate electronically, they're pushers that actually have mechanical gear links that actually control it. So that is very, very nice. So you do have this friction fit bidirectional bezel insert. Well, the bezel itself is bidirectional, but the insert does have the 12-hour rule. So if I was going to go to Texas, which is a 2-hour difference from California, then I would just set it like that, and then I would already know now, instead of looking and seeing that it's 1 to 2, it'd be 3 to 4 basically, right? Because it would be 3:30 versus 1:30. So pretty straightforward. And then of course, once I return home, I'll go ahead and reset that. So that is a nice feature. Maybe I'll go to New York, be even further out, right? 3-hour difference. And it is quite intuitive because you're not relying on the 24-hour scale. You're just relying on the standard hour hand, which is great. So you think of it within that 12-hour scale, plus you also do have the 24-hour, which a lot of people typically with Meca Quartz movements will kind of point out what's kind of a useless subdial. I think it's nice as an AM/PM indicator, but you can use it, especially within the theme of this watch, it being a traveler's watch, as a great AM/PM indicator for you to remember. Like, let's say you're flying internationally and you're 12 hours to 18 hours ahead, then that's going to be a lot harder to track. So it's going to be a lot nicer for you to kind of remember in that 24-hour subdial. Okay, hey, it's not supper time yet, right? It's not dinner because it looks like it's just afternoon. So I think that is really, really neat, and actually kind of makes what has normally been kind of a not super useful subdial now actually does have some use. So I thought that was kind of neat that they did that. So getting into the crown, again, it is screw down. So you can see here, I can unscrew it, pops out nicely. Of course, I don't have to wind it because it is, a quartz movement. So the timing features are all run by that quartz crystal. And you can see it has a nice sweep, not quite as nice a sweep as, it's actually about, I believe, 5 ticks a second. So that's a little bit slower, of course, than 8 ticks, which is standard 4 hertz, or 6 ticks, which would be 3 hertz. So you're getting the 1/5 second interval in that nice sweep feature there on this Seiko Meca Quartz VK64. And in terms of the chrono mechanism, it actually consists of over 20 individual parts, similar to a traditional mechanical chronograph gear train, which is great. And it's gonna feel that way when you press it and engage it and and disengage. So really, really nice, especially compared to a standard quartz chronograph. The only drawback is that battery life isn't quite as long. Here you'll be saving some battery life because there isn't a running second subdial. And then if you did want to use this basically as a running second, you could just hack it to whatever the second is and then run it. But I wouldn't recommend that, doing that too often, because then what's going to end up happening is you're going to be running down the battery sooner. So you might end up having to change it a little bit faster. But I have changed, since I have so many Meca Quartz watches, I've actually changed quite a few of these batteries, and they're not bad. You can actually find the batteries on Amazon pretty easily. So getting into the case back, you see it is really nicely done. Has clean little etching there, Crafter Blue, Bon Voyage. And yeah, it's really well done, and you can see actually a really nice kind of imprinting on this great leather strap. This is actually really very handsome. Like, I'm gonna leave it on here. I was thinking I was immediately gonna want to kind of swap it out to the black strap, but I will say that this thing is really nice. But so what I'll do is I'll just demo how easy it is to change out the straps, because you do have, of course, you know, quick release spring bars. Also, this is from a strap maker, so that's one of the nice things about getting a watch from a brand that is known for making great straps, is that they know how to make the straps. So when you get one of their watches, you better believe you're going to get a great strap with it. And that was also the case with this much more expensive model. I mean, this strap is fantastic. So let me just give it another quick wipe here. Check that out. This is super versatile now, very sporty, and I really do like that. And then of course this rubber, it's FKM rubber, so although it's non-tapering, which is like one drawback, you can see it does have this really great texturing, which kind of reminds you of like a nylon weave pattern, and it just gives it a little bit of texture, especially considering this is just kind of black and white, very monochromatic. It does have a nice look, and then of course it is super pliable, really well done. You're getting, of course, nice milled hardware, whether it's on, you know, either case here. This is going to be slightly tapered, so you're going to get a bit of a smaller buckle with an 18 millimeter versus just 20, because it's going 20 to 20, or it's going to go 20 to 18. But this strap is actually super nice too, so really like this one. You can see it picks up patina really well, and then, you know, little oils, little scratches, it just adds to that character. And then this one I think makes it very sporty. The nice thing is you are getting a screw down crown, 100 meters of water resistance. This thing looks sporty and it feels sporty. So with that said, let's actually go ahead, get this piece on the wrist and see how it wears. All right, as you can see on my 7.5-inch wrist, wears really well. Of course, if I get it too close to the camera, you're gonna get a lot of distortion. You guys are gonna be screaming about the long lug to lug. But if I just keep my hand a little bit further away and bring the shot in a little bit tighter, you can still see that it does actually sit pretty centered on the wrist. And when I say 7.5, I mean that's just the difference between you know, above the wrist bone or below the wrist bone. Essentially it'd be 7.25 if I just wore it a little closer to my hand. But in my, you know, kind of collecting journey, I've learned to kind of wear my watches a little bit higher up on the wrist, so you guys can see wears really nicely. Again, you know, keep in the context that if this was a mechanical chronograph, it would be much thicker. So you can see that it does sit, and it is quite wearable, and I do like that. But like I said, I actually really like these straps too. So what I'll do, again, because this is you know, equipped with these cool quick release spring bars, I can take these out and I can show you the other combination with relative ease here. So I just got to line up the bottom, line up the top, let it pop and click. And do the same for the other side. Then give it another quick wipe, just because I'm sure I got a couple extra fingerprints on there. And I mean, typically this type of color is a little bit too close to, I'd say, my skin tone. So I normally wouldn't wear this type. But I mean, I know that everybody who's watching this isn't necessarily going to be the same skin tone as me. Not everybody's going to be as tan. So for some of you, this could be an amazing color. And I think just, you know, in general, just looking at it, I mean, that looks gorgeous, guys. It's buttery smooth, really nice, and I can tell that's going to age really well. So again, we'll bring it in a little tighter so we can look at it without all the extra distortion, and you guys can see very clean, very classic, sits on the wrist really well. There's a nice sweep to the lugs, right? So they are a little bit longer, but they do guide the strap nicely down and around the wrist. Actually, it looks like I got a bunch of smudges on the beveling there. So let me just give that a quick wipe. Bring it back so you guys can enjoy the nice high polished bevels with a little bit less finger oils on there. But you can see really, really nice. Again, quite flat considering what this is. This is a chronograph now, guys. It also has a screw down crown and 100 meters of water resistance. So again, it just offers you a lot of that ability. And another thing that it has, you know, a lot of kind of goodness in is this lume, which I'm really looking forward to sharing with you guys. So with that said, let's go ahead and get this off the wrist, set it up for some lume shots, low light transition, and closing thoughts. Okay, let's go ahead and hit the lights here. Yes, check that out, guys. It has really nicely thickly applied lume, so I dig that. And although this is not, you know, a dedicated dive watch, as a traveler's watch and a chrono, this thing actually is loaded with lume. But one thing I really like to do is work in some low light transition, because you are not necessarily always going to be out in pitch black environments, nor will you always be out in, you know, direct sunlight, getting kind of perfect lighting like my studio lights are going to be able to kind of recreate. So a lot of times you're going to be in these mixed lighting situations. So I like to actually get an example of that, because it's nice to see what these colors, finishes, and textures render like in less than optimal lighting, just to give you a better idea of how this watch is going to look when you actually own it in the metal. And you can see it is actually still very, very legible even in these mixed lighting conditions. It doesn't wash out. And then you get, of course, to a much darker situation and you're able to still really see the time, which is nice. So I dig that. All about that legibility, that sportiness, that functionality. I gotta give them much props for that. Very cool. All right, guys. So getting into closing thoughts here. On the wrist, definitely really great sporty sizing. Really fits that kind of go anywhere theme. You know, of course, this isn't by any means doing any partial duty as a dress watch. So, you know, kind of relieve that from your mind. I get it. It's a little bit longer. It's a little bit wider than a lot of folks like, but it's also the perfect size for a lot of other folks. So I, you know, can't discriminate, you know, just based off of my personal tastes. And I think, honestly, this absolutely fits well on my wrist. And, you know, I don't have the largest wrist. I don't have the smallest wrist either. I'd say it's probably erring more on, you know, the above average side. But in terms of model variants, this is it so far. Definitely check back though. Check their site links for availability and other options. But in terms of comparable models, much of the Meca Quartz market is honestly focused on kind of that vintage motorsport inspired aesthetic and those themes, which there's a lot of brands that do that really great. So it's nice for me to see a brand come in and kind of dip into more of the sports traveler space. And this does a great job of kind of being that everyday sports watch / travel watch. I dig that, especially since GMTs and travelers watches are, you know, kind of really in vogue right now. This kind of this combines a lot of different features, right? It combines, you know, you get the screw down crown, you get a kind of a dive watch style case, but you're also getting the functionality of a chronograph, a mechanical chronograph, you know, powered by Quartz timekeeping. You're getting great lume that is, you know, probably a little bit more on the diver side. And then, you know, of course, with that great traveler's bezel, then you're actually able to time multiple time zones, which is cool. So for me, guys, the bottom line, this is just a super capable and fun piece for right under $300 again. So like, this is a great watch for somebody that doesn't have a ton of money to spend. You're getting a very clean, very iconic, you know, since it's a traveler's watch, guess what that means? Aviation. So it's just like, it fits kind of within the air, land, and sea. It can kind of do it all. And this will look great on a number of straps. And the cool thing is, you know, from the brand out of the gates, you're getting two really interesting options that really do change the dynamic of the watch, you know, right out of the box. So with that said, let me know know what you guys think in the comments below. If you like the video, please do a like. And if you haven't already, please do subscribe for more content just like this. Thanks, guys.